Welcome to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Hello and welcome to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. I'm Lauren Bolander, as always, with Captain Rick Murphy. Hey, Rick.
Hey, Lauren. How are you?
Well, I'm super because tonight we have our studio audience back with us.
How about that? We got
everyone.
A nice group of guys and gals over there.
That's right, we sure do. Now, you guys remember, if you want to be part of our audience, just go to our Facebook page and get registered. Now, Rick, I know you're excited tonight. We've got a big one for you coming up. You want to hear about tonight's lineup?
I do. Let's go.
I thought you would. All right, tonight we're going to talk Tarpon, one of Rick's favorites. All 9 of our captains from across the state will be updating us on that from their post. We also have Navionics. Rick's going to zoom in on the Florida Keys. We also have a very special treat tonight. We get introduced to something brand new, the Chevy Silverado, right here on our set. And your standard treat, Dave Farrell from the Workbench. Hey, Dave.
I come standard in this package.
He's like a trick or treat that always doesn't come just once a year, you know?
Every week.
Exactly. All right, so let's talk about the theme species, Lauren. I got to tell you, tarpon's without a doubt my favorite fish of all fish to catch. You know, he's a 6-foot animal. We catch him out of a 16-foot boat in 6 feet of water, and he jumps 6 feet high, and he, you know, weighs 160 pounds. It's awesome. But the thing that comes to mind is they come in all shapes and sizes. Now, this particular picture was sent in by Eric Estrada, and it's his buddy, Refty Frank's first tarpon. And then the next picture up, a nice 100-pounder. Sometimes we fight these fish to exhaustion. This picture was sent in by Richard Stanzik from Bud Mary's Marina. It's a 100-pounder that he caught with his buddy Mike Reinberg off of Isla Mirada. And then third, William Ray from Roswell, Georgia, sent us this beautiful picture of this jumping tarpon after it's been hooked. And I got to tell you, that's one thing you always remember about a tarpon is the jumps. They leave that impregnated, certainly in my mind.
I bet so. What's the largest one you've hooked? Do you remember?
Well, we caught one over 200 on bait, you know, but it's not about me. It's about the Florida Keys region, so let's get going.
It is. All right. We are going to kick it off tonight in our La Jolla region. The Florida Keys is where Captain Randy Towle calls home. How are the tarpon in your area, Randy?
Hey, guys. Good evening. You know, tarpon fishing right now is full swing, and they're biting in the backcountry. They're biting close to home and around the bridges. There's a good tarpon bite. And this year, for some reason, I can't remember guys catching big fish. You know, a month or two ago, I started off catching a real big fish in the backcountry with a 50-inch girth, 82 inches long, and I was thinking, man, that was a big tarpon. There's not many of those that you really run across. And it wasn't very long after that, Captain Robert Trossett in Key West caught one. He estimated about 220, 230 pounds on a live crab down in his region in Key West. And then you come back to Isla Mirada, and we've got some good fishing around the bridges on the live crabs and live mullet right now. And I talked to Captain Ben Eckblum, who sent me a picture of his angler, Josh Jackson, with a fish that they caught with a 49-inch girth, 89 inches long. We were talking about 3 fish here within the couple of months, well over 200 pounds. It's been an awesome tarpon season so far.
All right, Randy, before we go on to the next inshore species, I want to take a look at the Navionics from your region. Now, guys, we're talking about Long Key Bridge down south, mile marker 68, mile marker 66. Now, one thing you need to understand is whenever you're thinking about fishing the bridges, understand that the flow of current is going to go either in or out depending on the tide. Now, a great place looking at this Navionics chart, as I look across the bank, there's a bunch of little potholes. That's where you're going to want to stake out your boat or anchor your boat and up current of the bridge so that your baits drift back to all these little embutments. If the tide's going out, what you might want to do is you might want to set up down here in some of this deeper water because it's going to be much shallower up against the bridge. I like fishing on the up current sides of the bridges, so keep that in mind if you go down to the Florida Keys to bridge fish. All right, Randy, tell me what else is going on inshore.
You know, the red fishing, we've had some great red fishing the last few years, and this time of year, the reason red fishing is so good is most of the guys are tarpon fishing, so the pressure on the redfish kind of takes a break right now with most of the guys doing something else. But young Captain Donnie Bentbow with Skins and Fins Charters, he's taking advantage of the great red fishing. He's up on the flats. He's sight fishing to a lot of fish when he's got the right tide. And then I've talked to some of the other guys that have the bigger boats. They're fishing the shorelines. They're fishing some of the beaches with a hookup, and a live pinfish is working great. So we've got a lot of redfish around right now, it seems like, because the pressure's been off of them, and you're going to find them up on the flats. If you've got that technical boat to get up in skinny water, or if you got a bigger boat, you certainly want to look along those shorelines on the outgoing tide.
All right, let's go offshore, Bub.
You know, we've had some periods of calm weather, and calm weather this time of year, there's a good swordfish bite offshore. Our daytime sword fishing is as good as it gets right now. We find ourselves out there dolphin fishing this time of year, so it's not uncommon for guys to drop down during the middle of the day to see if they can get a swordfish. There's been a few caught this week, and most of these fish are being caught in 15 to 1,800 feet. Now, you've got to be set up to do this. You've got to have a heavy rod to do it with braided line. 65 to 80-pound braid is what you want to use. 10 pounds of lead, and you want a nice fresh bait, a belly strip out of a bonita, a barracuda, a dolphin, and always squid's your best bet. But you want to get that bait to the bottom and work your boat into the current so that you can stay straight up and down, and you'll probably get yourself a bite right now on a swordfish. The yellowtail fishing on the edge of the reef, I can tell you, we've been doing it all week, and it's been very good when it's good, and it's slow when it's slow. Conditions are everything. The conditions for yellowtailing, you want the wind and the current going the same way. That's the trick right there. If you have that condition, it doesn't take much after that with a little bit of chum and some oats to get these yellowtails biting. It seems like 55 to 70 feet of water has been the best bet. And any kind of fresh cut bait, ballyhoo, a blue runner, silver sides, anything like that, drift it back with your chum, and you're going to catch some nice yellowtails. We caught 30 this morning, and conditions were perfect. Even though we had a hard east wind of 20-25, the reef fishing was excellent today.
All right, great report. Way to start us off, Randy. I'm excited about going tarpon fishing. I'm going to go ahead and get to the Florida Keys hotspots from the Florida Keys region. Inshore, tarpon, drift with live crabs or anchor in the front of the rolling fish with live mullet on the bottom. All right, the other thing you're going to want to do offshore, dolphin, 400 to 500 feet of water. Look for the weeds and the birds on the schoolies. 800 to 1,000 feet. Look for those man-o-war birds on those big dolphin.
Okay, Rick, now it's time to check in and see what tournaments are going on in the Keys. First off, the Keys-wide Florida Keys Dolphin Championship coming up Memorial Day weekend. There's a $15,000 top cash prize and the opportunity to win a $75,000 Sea Hunter Bay boat for the angler who catches the largest dolphin. The Yamaha Dolphins Masters Invitational is scheduled for May 25th in Key West. Here, more than $13,000 is offered up to the angler who scores the highest combined weight of 3 dolphin catches. Next, the IFC Captain's Cup Dolphin Tournament from June 5th through the 6th in Isla Mirada. Just 3 fish are all that's needed to capture the $25,000 winner-take-all grand prize. And finally, the inaugural Ladies Dolphin Tournament is June 7th and 8th in the Florida Keys Elks Lodge at Tavernier. The winning team will be determined by the highest aggregate weight of 3 dolphin for a $3,000 payout. Lots of good stuff going on, but right now let's hand it over to Andy Newman in the Florida Keys to find out about the feature tournament. Hey, Andy.
Hey, Lauren, and since the theme species is tarpon, we're going to talk a little bit about the Don Hawley Invitational Tarpon Tournament. It's June 2nd to the 7th. It's in Isla Mirada, and the tournament is named for the late fly fisherman and conservationist Don Hawley. It benefits the Guides Trust Foundation, and that foundation assists professional fishing guides and also supports backcountry fishery conservation programs. Now, the tournament rules dictate that participants must use either 12 or a 16-pound tippet. That lighter tippet, by the way, provides a much higher point value. Now, more details on this Hawley Invitational and other tournaments and events in the Keys, they're on the Florida Keys website. It's flakeys.com. And Rick, back to you in the studio. And listen, by the way, have a good time at this weekend's Big Pine and Lower Keys Dolphin Tournament.
I hope the fishing's great. I'm really looking forward to it, Andy. Thanks for hooking me up on that, bud.
All right, now as we look to the east, Captain Mike Holliday, your region is at the beginning of your annual tarpon migration. What does that mean for you?
Well, Lauren, basically means the fish are starting to move out of the Keys and work their way up to the coast. And those fish are, like the first trickle of fish have already pushed their way into the inlets, and they're working their way into the normal summer resident areas, places like Big and Little Mud Creeks in St. Lucie County, the Crossroads in Martin County, the intercoastal near the Blue Heron Bridge in Palm Beach County. All those areas are seeing their migratory fish. Now, we also have resident fish in the Loxahatchee River and the North and South Forks of the St. Lucie River, and those fish are actively rolling at first light. In the inlets, you can free line a live mullet on 30-pound tackle with 60-pound fluorocarbon leader and 6.0 VMC tournament circle hook during the outgoing tide. If the ocean calms, you'll find the fish moving north along the beach. They'll eat a live crab, a threadfin, or a pilchard. Now, for the smaller resident fish, throw a root beer-colored DOA terrorize or a bass assassin Houdini-colored or Texas roach 4-inch sea shad. Throw it to the rolling fish, let it sink, reel it back real slow as you can. The bite's real soft. It's kind of like a little tap. You feel that tap, set the hook. The average inlet fish is 50 to 100 pounds. Average resident fish up in the canals are more like 8 to 20 pounds. Now, it's also been a solid spring for snook. The fish are starting to move towards the inlets. The Captain Craig Krasinski of Jupiter, he's been catching his fish throwing 4-inch topwater plugs against the seawalls and also around the docks of the Intercoastal and the Loxahatchee River. He's fishing those topwater plugs to about 11 o'clock, then switching over to live mullet, later in the day. And for the bigger fish, a live mullet at night around the bridges is the way to go. In the St. Lucie River, Captain Ken Hudson's doing great on slot fish. He's throwing threadfin or mullet around the docks and around the Roosevelt Bridge. That bite's been best on the incoming tide. And then up at Fort Pierce, the snook bite's great at Northbridge, particularly at night, throwing flare hawks and 5-inch chartreuse assassin swim bait. And then during the daytime, fishing in Fort Pierce Inlet with live pinfish or pilchards for bait. Average snook right now is 4 to 10 pounds, but fish over 20 pounds are being common, really caught almost every day right now. I got a photo. That's Glenn Sinnott, generic. He's a West Palm Beach, caught that slot-sized snook along with 5 others. He was throwing topwater plugs against the seawalls in Palm Beach County with Captain Craig Krasinski of Jupiter.
Great photo, Mike. Good job, man. Let's go ahead and go offshore, Buck.
Well, like the weather, the dolphin bite's been a little bit inconsistent. When we get a northerly wind, the bite's red hot, but it's been shutting down on those west winds like we had midweek last week. That being said, we're starting to see some bigger fish showing up, including 3 fish over 50 pounds caught between Stewart and Fort Pierce this week. If you don't want to, you don't have to go out deep. A lot of the fish have been taken in 100 to 200 feet of water along the rip and along the color changes. The weed lines really haven't been that productive as they normally are, but that could change any day. Total rig value on 80-pound monofilament leader or number 7 wire with a pink or a green skirt. You can also pull a Williamson Dorado catcher just to cover water. Then you can throw cut baits or live bait out when you find the fish. Another good option is to drift live mullet, threadfin, sardines, or pilchards, hoping that the fish will be drawn to the shade of the boat. And keep in mind that there's a 20-inch minimum fork limit and a 10-fish bag limit. It's real easy to get caught up in the action and just load up the boat and exceed your limit. Average dolphin right now is 6 to 15 pounds. And then, it's mid-May, so the kingfish are off northern Palm Beach and southern Martin counties. But like the dolphin action, the king action has been sort of inconsistent. One day it's a morning bite, the next day it's an afternoon bite. On the westerly winds, the fish are coming in tight to the beaches. I talked to Captain Quentin Hall of Delray Beach. He had 3 kings over 30 pounds this week. He was fishing the beach with live threadfins. And then a king fleet's been working in 90 feet of water from the Juneau Pier to just north of Jupiter Inlet. You get out there, you want to slow troll blue runners, goggle eyes, Spanish sardines, or a live mullet, all on a number 4 wire stinger rig with 2.0 VMC 4X strong treble hooks. And those kingfish are notorious, short strikers. So if you miss a fish, take the boat out of gear, free spool the reel, let the bait fall back, and the king will swing back around and eat the other half of the bait. Average king right now is 10 to 20, but fish over 40 pounds are being caught almost every day right now.
All right, let's hear about the bass fishing. I get excited about that inshore stuff.
Oh, man, let me tell you, Toho's on fire. Really, the whole Toho Kissimmee chain of lakes. Huge fish caught this week. A bunch of fish in that 8 to 10 pound range. It's pretty late for us to be seeing those big fish. The best stuff's been on the outside grass line and on the submerged hydrilla beds in 5 to 8 feet of water. Logger toads, watermelon, red glitter, and red shad colored fat jobs with white spinner baits. All those worked in the grass are taking good numbers of the school fish, particularly at first light, but live shiners are catching most of those big pigs. Paradise Island and the cow pen, they're holding a lot of fish on Toho. Brahma Island, Parker's Cove, and 7 Palms over spots to fish on Kissimmee. Average bass is 1 to 3 pounds. If you get an early start right now, though, it's pretty easy to catch a couple dozen fish and be back for late breakfast. So Soho and Kissimmee are on fire, guys.
All right, great report, Mike. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and get to the Bennett Auto Supply hotspots from the East region. Captain Mike says inshore, triple tail in the Indian River from Nettie's Island to the South Bridge in Fort Pierce. Live shrimp or a chartreuse quarter-ounce hookup jig. Fish around the channel markers and the manatee zone signs. And then offshore, king mackerel on the Juneau Ledge. Live blue runners or Spanish sardines in 60 to 90 feet of water. Give the commercial boats plenty of room, guys.
Stay with us on the other side of the break. We head to the Northwest to visit Jeff Hageman, and Dave is going to take you off the deep end. More to come on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by the Florida Lottery, Yeti Coolers, wildly stronger, keep ice longer, best parts, best prices, Bennett Auto Supply, Captain Harry's Fishing Supply Company, Chevy, the IGFA, conservation through education, get your hands wet, and Olukai.
Listen, this Chevy Silverado is not happy. It's not happy because it's not doing anything, because it knows you have a to-do list with unchecked boxes, because it was built to constantly be on the prowl to get more done. Patience is not the Silverado's virtue. Doing is. The dependable, reliable Chevy Silverado.
It's 200 streamlined horsepower of Yamaha forward thinking. The all-new F200 inline four-stroke. Whether you're an offshore angler, pontoon cruiser, bay boater, or walleye hunter, the responsive and fuel-efficient F200 combines amazing power and versatility in one incredibly compact and lightweight package. The all-new F200. Legendary Yamaha reliability and the freedom of forward thinking.
Imagine brighter futures, where doors open for Florida students every day. Imagine building a better tomorrow, where playing means we all win. Now celebrating $25 billion to education in 25 years. The Florida Lottery, just imagine.
In Key West, you can get close to nature. Close to history. And really close to the band. In fact, Key West is close to perfect, but far from normal.
Now let's go over our news and notes from the FWC. The ABCs about boating safety in Punta Gorda on May 17th, on May 18th in Fort Walton Beach, and on May 19th in Palm Beach Shores. You can find more information at myfwc.com. Right now it's time to go off the deep end.
You know, Dave, every week we talk about
hot in here,
the
man.
Jägermeister workbench, about rigs and techniques, talking about tarpon.
Yes.
You're fanning yourself with a penny.
This is the king of the tarpon, live tarpon bait, I imagine. One of them.
You know why
There's
he
many
is?
kings.
Because he's accessible 365, 24 hours a day, all the time. He's
can
the
always-
number 2 in the system.
What's the number one live bait in the system for a tarpon?
It depends on the time of year. Mullet when mullet are migrating, shrimp when the shrimp is cold, you know what I mean? And
Big
the shrimp
shrimp.
are happy.
Do you like
Yeah,
to use a
exactly.
great big shrimp? Do you use them live?
Of course
Or
you use
a
them.
big live shrimp.
Big live shrimp. Love it.
Or a dead mullet
with a
head.
hook-up jig right in the bottom of his nose, coming up the bottom and drop straight down.
How would you hook up a live bait fish to fish for a tarpon?
Actually, here is the rig that I use. It's a, you know, a 6,000 size spinning reel, 8,000. We put a popping cork that you'd use for trout fishing.
Right.
We got a piece of 40-pound tied to our 832 Suffolk braid. And then essentially I use 60 or 80, you know, Suffolk fluorocarbon leader. And I like to usually have about 4 to 5 feet of it. Obviously, I've shortened it for the TV purposes.
Now, do you have to have fluorocarbon?
No, you don't.
You can use just like...
You can use regular.
Like, you know, if you don't have fluorocarbon, can you go just down in size a little? Or how far down would you go?
The problem that you run into if you go down in size with mono is you potentially, it doesn't have as much abrasion resistance
as fluorocarbon.
At least with my experience with the Suffolk.
Well,
it's very abrasion resistant. Now, we're going to use a pinfish. We're going to take this pinfish. This is a 7385 VMC circle hook, and I'm going to go in the shoulder, Dave, and I'm going to pop it out like that. The reason why we like to do that is because, and if you like, some guys like to trim
I was just about to ask.
the fins off, which that's not anything that's going to be a bad thing. But the reason why we like to do that is the pinfish by nature, he wants to be on the bottom.
Correct.
So he's going to dig like nobody's business, and that's why we use the cork to keep him up.
To keep him from
off
going
of
and
the
hiding.
bottom. And he's digging, and that vibration is what the tarpon...
Now, if it was a mullet, would you hook him up in the shoulder, or would you put him in the lips?
Hook him in the lip and go to a bigger circle hook, an 8-0, a 9-0 potentially, especially if it's a big, big mullet.
Right.
Because you got to have a gap
to
hook that fish.
Right. With any circle hook or any bait, you know, anytime you ever use a bait, your bait is what gets in the way of your hookup most of all. So whenever you use a bigger bait, you got to use a bigger hook, and a circle hook especially because it gets swallowed. And how a circle hook works, it has to be swallowed or it will not work. And see how it'll come right to the.
You know what? What I would
right
like
to, the
to do
there.
is I want to show people in the next few weeks how circle hooks work. And we'll use a monofilament and a circle hook and a cup. I'll show you how to do that. You've showed me, so I don't know. I don't need to show you.
It'll do it with just your hand. I mean, if you just watch that sucker, it'll go right in there. And that's perfect for the big tarpon.
The other thing that's great about tarpons is they eat a lot of great artificials.
They love to eat just about anything that looks like a fish. The DOA bait buster, you know, this thing, the swimming mullet from DOA, these things are a known tarpon killer.
This is the silhouette of a thread fin. They love thread fins over on the West Coast, tarpon do. They fish them on the beaches.
And you shouldn't be afraid of using a bigger lure.
No.
Because they eat big things. A big mullet, you know, you can get a pound or half a pound of a mullet and use it as a live bait, so why can't you use a great big crankbait?
Yeah, this glide wrap works perfectly. It's weighted. You can throw it a mile because it doesn't have a lip. But sometimes fish get a little finicky. And when they do, what you guys want to do is you want to downsize your plugs or downsize your baits. Maybe your pinfish, you're putting on a big pinfish. I found this out. One the size of your hand.
Right.
Go down to a small pinfish and sometimes you'll get a bite.
Now, I fished with Bouncer Smiths one time and we were pulling just small mirror lures, actually. I was surprised how small they were compared to the size of the fish that we were hooking and catching. But he would put, on his mirror lures, he would put a single hook on there. Is that a normal thing for fellas to modify their lures with single hooks when chasing tarpon?
Yeah, some guys like to do that. Bouncer certainly does. I think what happens too in that situation, Bouncer a lot of times is fishing a straight up and down. And so a single hook.
We were actually trolling that night.
Okay.
Yes, like slow trolling, yeah.
And so that allows that hook to be obviously exposed, specifically in a trolling situation. You're absolutely right.
I gotcha.
All right, you know, one of the things that's so cool about doing this with you every week is over the years, 12 years, we really got to know each other. But I'm going to say that something came to my attention today. If you guys want to bring up the photo, it's either you're either getting married or you're getting dressed for the funeral. What's going on with this man in the suit?
No, that was it's our corporate photograph. But if you'll notice, if you look real close, my tie has little white skulls on it. Okay. So that, I didn't go full. And I still have jeans.
And I got to
I am wearing my Converse tennis shoes too, by the way.
Awesome picture. I'm really impressed. You clean up nice.
Yeah.
Guys, if you like the photo of Dave Farrell, I want you to go on our Facebook, send in your comments. I really, really cherish what you might want to say about Dave and his monkey suit.
Yeah, very nice.
All right, speaking of the monkey, you're not the only monkey in this studio, and she's dressed in green with red lips. So, hey, monkey, why don't you take it away?
I don't know how you got put in
I was going
that.
to say, I have a comment already. It goes like this. Hubba.
Oh, my goodness.
What? All right. Now let's head to the Yeti Northwest region where we find Captain Jeff Hageman. What can you tell us about tarpon in your region, Jeff?
We've got them throughout the year. Most of our fish that are out throughout the year are mostly the immature fish, the juveniles. They'll be in springs and in the rivers and little estuaries around Tampa Bay and up in Crystal River, Homosassa in the springs. They'll be all up in there. But the major migration is in summer months. You can find them in the beaches and around the passes, around the bridges too. The Skyway is a great place to go fish for them. The grass flats, you can find them throughout our whole region. Spinning gear is great. Flies also a really productive way to catch them. As far as live baits go, pinfish, threadfins, crabs. You guys were just talking about this for live baits. As far as flies go, lemon drops are a real popular one out on the beach. And over the grass, you want to throw either a cockroach or a purple and black. That works really good. That glide and wrap that Rick was just talking about a few minutes ago has been doing pretty good for us up in the harbor down in Boca Grande. So that's also a very effective bait. I throw that one in the gold and the black back. And as far as etiquette goes, you really want to pay attention to what's going on around you. When you're running your boat down the beach, make sure your guys aren't throwing flies and you're not running over their fish and running over schools of fish. So be really conscious on what's going on around you and look around, make sure guys aren't doing it. And you want to have a really stealthy approach when you're approaching these fish. Right now, they've been really finicky for the last couple of weeks. So take your time, cruise down the beach at a slow idle if you can. If you're running to a different spot, make sure you get way outside on the beach and run down the beach a little deeper than you normally would and give those guys a little room. But there's a lot of great fish right now. Also got a report, and I've seen them myself too. We got a black tarpon, jet black. His whole body is jet black with orange fins, and I'm not the only one that's seen him. So I have had some sleep, and I'm not making this up. But we got a black one out here, which is kind of odd for us.
A Halloween tarpon, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Hey, tell me about the triple tail fishing. What's happening?
Actually, I got some flounder fishing for you coming up next.
Flounder, go ahead, tell me, flounder.
Captain Jordan Todd of Saltwater Obsession out of St. Joe Bay reports the flounder bite's been really good right now in anywhere from 4 to 6 feet of water. He's fishing right now over these white sand holes on the grass flat. He's fishing a 1/2 ounce or a 3/8 ounce jig head with a pearl white gulp shrimp, and he's working that real slow across the bottom. Right now, the fish are averaging anywhere from 12 to 16 inches. And also, he said there's been some nice schools of redfish showing up there in St. Joe Bay. Most of the schools have been around 30 to 40 fish, and they've all been in the slots. So there's a lot of good fish moving in there right now. Offshore, Captain Jason Lineberger of Ruthless Fishing Charters out of Tampa Bay reports a great gag grouper bite and red snapper bite in anywhere from 80 feet of water. He said they're fired up right now. Most of the snapper right now are in high relief structures, and most of the grouper right now are on flat bottom. Pinfish and sardines have been your bait of choice, and you want to keep a flat line right out the back of the boat right now while you're anchored up bottom fishing. All the pelagics are still here. You got tuna, the blackfin tuna, we got plenty of them still working in here, kingfish, and there's a lot of cobia right now at that depth and deeper. So put a free line sardine or a threadfin nose hook out the back. If you want to use a little wire, it's not a bad idea, because my next topic, we've got a lot of these out there right now throughout my whole region. We got lots of sharks. Most of the guys out there bottom fishing and out there pelagic fishing are complaining the sharks are so bad out there right now. It's unbelievable. Anything in 70 feet of water or on out, on any artificial out there, is holding a ton of black tips, spinner sharks, and the occasional bigger hammerhead. The hammerheads are running a little bigger. Most of the black tips and the reef sharks right now are anywhere from 2 to 6 feet long, and the occasional hammer has been about 8. You want to use a wire leader, and if you want to have some fun, go out there and take the kids out there pulling on some sharks. You can go out there and catch as many of these as you want right now. And don't forget a long hook out, and be very careful handling them. You don't want to get bit.
All right, great report, man. I'm impressed. Thank you so much for the hard work. I'm going to go ahead and get to the drum and bank hotspots from the Northwest region. Inshore, tarpon on the outgoing tide in Egmont Channel and along the beaches use crabs and thread fins for bait. And then offshore, sharks in 75+ feet of water over the artificial reefs use thread fins for bait on a number 7 wire leader and a 5/0 VMC circle hook, Lauren.
Okay, when we return, guys, we will check in with the Central East and the Southeast regions. Plus, we will talk about all the new 2014 Chevy Silverado. Stick around.